The launch trailer for Hogwarts Legacy just dropped and it looks incredible with some really cool new locations, enemies and characters being shown. And we have even more interesting information on the game's stealth system, possible wand customization and way more. So we'll go over all of that in this video. If you're looking forward to Hogwarts Legacy and enjoy the content here on the channel, leave a like to help us out, subscribe for way more videos on the game, and if you want, you can still enter in our deluxe edition giveaway for your platform of choice. You can check it out via the link in the pinned comment and make sure you are a subscriber of the channel before you enter. With that out of the way, let's go. So that launch trailer gave us a look at a lot of things we haven't seen before, including us getting our field guide from Professor Weasley and our first glimpse at wand selection at Ollivander's. This will likely take place before the sorting ceremony, but it should still be an important part of character creation. Ollivander shows up with a pretty cool looking wand. I like the subtle gold touches, and it also looks very similar to the one you get with the game's collector's edition. And what is interesting here is that the wand given to the player in this scene is not the same one we see them wield in this different shot at Ollivander's from later in the trailer. I have some ideas on how we would be able to change the appearance of our wand, but more on that later in the video. Because we also got a look at a lot of our enemies, including some new ones like this massive suit of enchanted armor. In this scene we see it in combat with the goblins, but it has to be something we are able to fight at some point too, I'd imagine. It's also interesting that we get another look at the troll attack on Hogsmeade, as the model in the launch trailer looks way better in my opinion when compared to the one from the state of play. I really like the new touches of color on the armor, and the change in its eye color is an improvement in my opinion as well. It's pretty much immediately blown up with an ancient magic finisher here, specifically the one that turns your enemies to dust that Jordan was also able to use in his hands-on preview. We also see the player character casting our defensive spell Protego, which is bound to triangle on PlayStation and can be used to deflect spells by pressing the button at the right time, as indicated by this yellow halo above your head. Get the timing right and you rebound a spell back to the enemy, as we can also see happen in the launch trailer. And maybe even more important than our enemies are the professors that will be helping us control our magic. We got our first look at Professor Weasley in her classroom, where she's demonstrating and teaching transfiguration magic. Later, we also see the player character and Hufflepuff companion Poppy attending a beast class from Professor Howin, where it looks like they're learning about unicorns. But yeah, overall the biggest thing that's teased in this trailer is that mysterious book again that we also saw before in the headmaster's office. But now it actually looks like it's something the player discovers themselves. I still think it's going to play an important part in the story, and I definitely believe it is tied to ancient magic, so I can't wait to find out what it actually is. We also got a look at some new locations on the castle grounds. In this footage from Power Unlimited, we see the player briefly enter the potions classroom, which also has its own dedicated flue flame you can fast travel to. At this point, it really seems like every classroom will have its own dedicated one, which is of course great, as we'll be visiting these places a lot to take classes and expand our spell list. We also got a closer look at the owlery in this footage from Wizarding World, which, as the name suggests, is where all the owls in the castle roost. And Bombastic was actually able to fly in close and land on this tower, which is interesting, as many other rooftops and balconies in the castle don't allow the player to land on it with their broom. We discussed that and more cool discoveries from the previews in a previous video, which I will link to in the video description. And speaking of previous videos, we got an interesting question from Adar in our comments about a mechanic that we haven't really discussed yet, which is stealth. They wanted to know if we can decide when to do a stealthy mission, or if there are any combat missions and stealth missions, and if those are forced on you. Well, during the recent play sessions, players were able to walk into every encounter and start casting spells immediately, which will alert enemies or take a quieter approach. This seemed possible for many of the encounters, although we can't rule out the possibility of a stealth only mission somewhere later down the line. And while in stealth, we have to be careful of what spells we use, as Andy Reloads was able to confirm that the only spell that can be used in a stealth capacity is Petrificus Totalis, which is a one-hit kill as it turns enemies to stone, sometimes even dropping them off a cliff, but you can only cast it when close to an enemy. So any of our offensive spells will reveal our location to nearby enemies, although maybe one of the talents tied to stealth can help us change that. There also seems to be an exception when it comes to our ancient magic, as we can see the player use both the throw and the finisher without being detected in gameplay from Bombastic. Which might be because this L1 R1 attack you can perform when the blue meter above your health bar is full always seems to take out an enemy instantly. And there's even more information on how enemy detection will function. In this footage from from ESO, we can see that even when under the effects of the disillusionment charm, enemies can still detect you when looking directly at the player character. Recasting the disillusionment charm will not allow you to re-enter stealth as demonstrated here by Jackfrags, although I do have an idea on another way we might be able to become undetected, more on that in a bit. You also have to be careful that other enemies don't spot their friends being taken out, as we can also confirm that this will cause them to respond. While you can see here that the AI doesn't respond when you take out a target out of their field of vision, we can see in gameplay from Raconteur that they do investigate if you take out another enemy if they can see them. You can still sneak away though, but if you stay in the same spot, it's likely you'll eventually be detected. But like I said, I do think we have another way of re-entering stealth even after detection, and that is by using an invisibility potion. We can see it in our item wheel here in footage from KhrazeGaming, saying we need to buy it from Pippin's Potions, which is of course a store in Hogsmeade. But why would you spend money on that potion when disillusionment seems to give you pretty much unlimited invisibility? It really got me thinking what the use for that invisibility potion would be, and it likely has to do with the strength of the effect. Because it turns out that while the effect makes it look like you are invisible, disillusionment only disguises a target as its surroundings by making it take on the exact color and texture of its environment. Which sounds hard as hell to program, so that's probably why they turn our character translucent instead. But it is not the same as magic invisibility, which completely conceals you from sight, and that is probably what an invisibility potion does. Which does make me believe these can be used to vanish in combat after being seen and re-enter stealth. So I think that clears up a lot of the questions that I had regarding this mechanic, although there are still a lot of other mysteries surrounding Hogwarts Legacy. I think another big one is concerning your wand. We mentioned a couple of details we do know in that previous video I mentioned earlier, but those made it sound like we could no longer customize our wand after picking it. However, a cosmetic item unlock we spotted in Jordan's footage from the play session looks a lot like a wand handle to me. And I wasn't the only one who thought about it either, as we got comments from multiple people comparing it to the snake handle that Lucius Malfoy has on his wand. And that's what caught my eye too. I think that owl at the bottom looks like a pommel, for lack of a better word. It's definitely not a piece of clothing, so the only other option I can think of is a cosmetic item for your broom. We do know that's something we are able to customize, and I guess this could be a broom handle too, but it looks a lot more like part of a wand to me. So with the information we already had, it now sounds like you pick your wand wood and core material at the start of the game, but you will be able to unlock multiple skins and parts for your wand to make it look different. So then we end up with a system like Jedi Fallen Order, where we also carry a single iconic weapon throughout the entire game, but are still able to customize the look of it and unlock new parts. And the way that Jordan was able to unlock this wand part was through a small side quest that had us recollecting books for a student who enchanted them to fly. Fun fact about these side quests, by the way, if you complete them in a certain way, you can hear your choices reflected in a character's dialogue afterward. In this example from KhrazeGaming, he chose to be a bit smug towards another student, not telling her the solution to a puzzle she told him about. Later, you can overhear her talking to another student, saying, "Imagine solving a riddle I mentioned and then not telling me the answer." Sounds like she's still pretty pissed, so maybe it's best if you do let her in on the secret when you do this quest in your own playthrough. And we will of course be making a ton of spoiler-free videos on the channel to help you get the most out of Hogwarts Legacy, so subscribe to not miss any of those. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you want, you can watch our previous one on a secret cave found during the previews and way more by clicking on the screen. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.